Hello, I'm Rover, and you're about to listen to a chapter of the audio version of my book, The Moongazers, a pirate queer adventure story. This is a 30-chapter series. Are you enjoying this project, and would you like to support me? You can do that by becoming a patron or buy me a coffee through Buy Me a Coffee. Enjoy! Chapter 6 Frey. When Sarah comes home, I don't say a word, and neither does Vitron. I'm not sure about keeping this secret from his mother. I tell myself it's not my story to tell. Loud footsteps and the banging of a door slamming shut announce her arrival. She has wrapped a cloth around her dark, curly hair and shoulders. In her hands, she holds a basket with a loaf of bread. "It's such a chaos in town," she exclaims. She has remarkable light brown, round eyes, just a shade lighter than Vitron's, who resembles her very much. She looks tired, exhausted. She wears clothes that once had bright colors, a pale red skirt and a frayed sweater. Even though the colors have seen better days, Sarah knows how to make something out of little. She is one of those people with the rare talent of being able to see beauty in anything, and knows how to combine things to make them look like a deliberate aesthetic. She throws the basket on the kitchen counter and started chattering animatedly. The whirlwind called Sarah puts a quick end to the quiet that hung in the room before she entered. On my way, I came across more than one fight, and 2 blocks away, the Peterson men are throwing out some folk out of their buildings. She shakes her head and brushes her hair from her eyes. Maybe we, too, should pack a bag and keep it ready, just in case. Or maybe it's just no longer possible to live in the city peacefully without belonging to some sort of group. She looks around and takes a quick sniff at the soup. "Ach, Ray, thank you. It smells delicious." She sends a beautiful, beaming smile my way. The gap where one of her front teeth is missing cannot detract from the light radiating from her. "I heard on the market that the card makers are dead. That's not good. Definitely not good for us." She takes a seat with a bowl of soup she had served herself. "It's just getting grimmer by the day here. At least the card makers were some sort of humane and just nice people. They weren't thinking about power and militias, but apparently, if you don't have a group to protect you, they'll just hit you like that. They were just a family with lots of friends that were helping others. It's unbelievable." She stays silent for a minute, lost in thought. All the while, Vitron sitting next to the stove, by now with a fresh set of clothes. His washed clothes are hanging to dry above the stove. I'm sitting on a chair next to the window and nod absently. "Yes, maybe the time has come to join some group," she repeats while swallowing a spoonful of soup. Suddenly she looks at Vitron and me, as if she realizes only now that we've mostly been an audience to her in a dialogue, and she hardly greeted us. She looks at her son, who pulls a face to indicate he doesn't feel like joining any groups. "I know, I don't like it either, but we have to do something. Especially since Erosmel was gone and then Trovit. Apparently not even families are safe anymore. I would have preferred this isn't necessary, but I am a woman alone. What if this gets out of hand? Winter is coming." We don't respond, and after a moment of silence, Sarah starts sharing the gossip from her work. She unpacks her basket and starts shifting about in the kitchen while informing us who got pregnant, who fell ill. Vitron gets up and slinks to the door, disappearing quietly. As loud as the door normally gets slammed shut in this house, it noiselessly falls into its frame now. I haven't said anything. What amount of trouble can the boy get into in such a short time? He has a talent for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But Sarah sits on her talking chair, and once she's up there, she doesn't come off easily and doesn't pay much attention to her surroundings. She never asked me any questions. I guess she just assumed I had no family and I was living on the street. She hadn't wanted to broach difficult subjects, and she hadn't been that wrong. Where I sneak off to some nights, where I get the meat I bring home, she doesn't ask. She lets me be. And I let her. Probably she suspects there is more to me than a roaming orphan, but she is content not to know. Sometimes I ask myself whether this isn't naive, if I'm not jeopardizing them by taking the risks I take. If you joined the Peterson band, what would that mean? I ask curiously. Sometimes I forget how little I actually know about this city, how quickly things change, what the rules are. Well, I don't really know. They're new. I know they're growing every day. They're strong and currently turning the city upside down. At work, I heard them say they're promising a good life to people who know a trade. She plants herself next to the stove and suddenly realizes Vitran has taken off. This child just won't stay put. It's unsafe for him to wander around town right now. She gets up and grabs her shawl, but I beat her to it. I'll go for him, I say with a reassuring smile while I put on my coat. As I walk out, I hear Sarah mumble in a language I don't understand, and I pull the door shut. Walking the streets, I notice it's quieter than usual. People are staying home. They sense the tension in town and prefer to keep their doors shut. I know exactly where to find Vitran, on the corner with his buddies. He walks up to me as he sees me approaching. He'd been absorbed in a game they were playing and seemed to have forgotten about the incident for a moment. I'll be back here in an hour, Vitran, and then the two of us will go back inside. He nods and kicks at a ball. His friends call him, and he runs off, tumbling about. They bring a smile to my face. It might not always be easy for them, but at least they have each other. When I went to the bar, I do what I always do there. I have a short chat, listen, and observe. As time passed and Frey didn't show up at this meeting point, I got more and more frustrated, even desperate. I looked for her in all the places I could think of. Now I try to make my frustration productive by visiting this bar, by keeping track of what's happening in the city. I try to stay patient and trust that Frey will reappear. Maybe one day she'll be sitting here having a drink, waiting for me. It's dark in the bar. Burning candles give the interior a warm glow, and a fireplace heats up the room. This building used to be a coffee shop. Even though the bar doesn't serve coffee anymore, the big green logos have been kept intact. A reminder from a lost time that fills some people, especially the older generation, with nostalgia. A hole has been hewn into the wall, leading to a brick chimney on the outside. It's a common sight in the city. When electricity and gas were cut, people had to look for alternative heating methods. Wood and coal were the easiest way, so forests in the surroundings were cut to produce firewood, and people built stoves from clay and old stovepipes. Keeping warm, in some cases, caused entire neighborhoods to burn down, as some people didn't know how to handle fire. But, as people are adaptable, over the years these incidents grew rarer, and now this has become the new normal. This particular bar is frequented by key figures of several of the city's militia. Frey and I had considered this a good meeting point, because people don't mind each other so much. It has been a dumb move. It's one thing to briefly meet here, quite another to have shown up here every couple days to ask for Frey. I feel uncomfortable becoming a regular here, and as it is mostly men entering this place, I stand out. At least the barkeeper is bribable, and I had been able to snatch a big bag of gold from Mel. When I sit down, he immediately passes me a mug of some home-brewed beer. "I got nothing for you," he mutters at me. I nod and take my usual place in the corner and start listening to the deep voices around me. Having sat at the table and gazed into the fire for a while, I do something I normally never do. I walk back to the bar and start a conversation with the barkeeper. The old man's white skin has a reddish rash. His nose is red and swollen, probably from drinking lots. He has bushy eyebrows, and I can smell him from the other side of the bar. "Can you tell me something about Peterson?" I ask. He looks around for a second, but apparently he is sufficiently at ease to share some information. "He grew up in Melshaven. He's inspired by Willem of Brekersand. You know, the guy who's been promising for years he'll restore electricity. He hadn't been able to, so far. Peterson promised he'll restore order, bring back peace and prosperity, amongst other things. He wants to build factories." I nod. "What do you mean, factories? Those don't really work anymore, right? Steam, coal, industrial revolution type, you know? Like back in the old days. I don't know how old you are, or if you ever had history classes, but it would enable us to go back to producing more." "And how does he treat his people?" I ask. No idea, but I do know he's promising larger rations to people who join him. I don't know if he'll be able to deliver, but at least he's working hard on winning people over. He wants to organize society different too. Wants people to know useful professions from the old days, like doctors, technicians, and who knows what. He's offering bigger houses, and those folks should teach the young ones, so the knowledge doesn't get lost. It don't seem too bad of an idea to me. The guy means well. He might be able to shake things up in Melshaven a bit. Who knows? He sounds hopeful. Thanks, I nod at him. He turns around, indicating that our conversation is over. I grab my things and walk home in the dark, pondering the man's words. I'm skeptical. Order, peace, prosperity. Goals that are often pursued by making a scapegoat and expelling everything that doesn't fall into their version of order, peace, and prosperity. Who would be the scapegoat this time? Had things in the city really improved now that Edelsmel was gone? When Frey and I arrived in the city, what we heard was that Edelsmel was horrendous, that he exploited people and there was so much hunger and suffering. Now that he's dead, I can't help but notice how much suffering still happens. Apparently, you can kill a mighty man only for another to take his throne. New people with new plans, all vying to win the hearts and minds of the population. Still, I have no regrets. The man had been a sadistic asshole. Smoke plumes hang low over the rooftops in the autumn twilight. The streets are getting darker already. Vitran, I yell at the corner where he's usually at. A short while later, I find him by my side. Just a little longer, Ray. We're going to the cartmaker's house to see if there's anything left there. Jesus, Vitran, show some pity. I murmur under my breath as we start walking down the street. I think it's time for you to get into bed, you little rascal. I open the door, and from under my arm he sprints upstairs. I throw another glance into the street. Apart from Vitran's friends shouting at each other, it is barren. A crescent moon shines above the rooftops. Would Frey be looking at the same moon now? Where is she? Later in bed, it occurs to me it might take some time before I hear from her. She wouldn't be dead, would she? She's not that easy to kill. She must have gotten away. And I tell myself, like I do every night, that all this is just temporary and that Frey will show up soon. It seems to be silent outside, but it is the silence of a city, not that of nature. There is no real silence in nature. There is always the wind, insects, or animals to fill your ears. At night, I wake up in a sweat several times. My blanket is damp and I stare into the dark, startled, trying not to think about the dead Frey who keeps haunting my dreams. Free colors, free sounds, free touches. I count to 10, twice, squeeze my hand and breathe deeply in and out. It's going to be fine, I whisper to myself, while my heart feels like it's being squashed. In the days that follow, unrest in the city increases. Fights become the norm. Vitran follows all of it closely, and Sera starts thinking about putting the boy to work somewhere, so she won't have to worry about him. Until one day she comes home and announces that she and Vitran are now part of the Petersons. She's carrying a large bag of food and declares that a week from now Vitran can start learning a trade from someone, so he can become a doctor or something else useful. And look what they gave us! She starts taking the food from the bag. Potatoes, carrots, and some mushrooms. Vitran runs out and Sera spends the evening explaining to me why this is the best way to survive, even if Vitran doesn't like it. It sounds like she's convincing herself. From her bag, she also takes an orange flag that she flies out of the window for everyone to see that she's now under Peterson's protection. I don't know what to think. What do the Petersons want in return? I don't dare to ask. I think it's unfair and awful that a single woman is so scared she feels she has to affiliate with a group like these. People beating each other up to get power. Would it be good for anything? Will it bring some change to the benefit of the people? Or is this the exact same pattern that existed before the Great Change? A pattern we haven't been able to shake off. One in which everyone only thinks about themselves. Like Torben, who, after the Great Change, couldn't wait to become a big, powerful man. Those people who believe they are individualized creatures were so focused on growth that they sent their planet to the edge of an abyss. War followed war. Maybe it's something inherently human to think we can do better, that we are entitled to things. Once again, I think we called the Great Change upon ourselves, that the earth was done with us, shaking us off our crust like the parasites we are.
Some they get beaten and others locked up for fighting for a world that's less fucked up. And if you think different and if you misbehave, they will lock you up, they will put you in a cage. So let's burn, burn the prisons down, burn, burn the prisons down. Let's tear apart the walls that keep us from each other. Let's tear apart the walls that keep us from each other. Systematic violence to all that object, getting tight with your hands to your bed, and this is what they call justice. This is what they call fair. So let's burn, burn the prisons down, burn, burn the prisons down. Let's tear apart the walls that keep us from each other. Let's tear apart apart the walls that keep us from each other. And I wish I knew you were safe, but you just never know in the hands of the state. So let's burn, burn the prisons down, burn, burn the prisons down. Let's tear apart the walls that keep us from each other. Let us tear apart the walls that keep us from each other. Let's tear apart the walls that keep us from each other.